Okay, I thought I'd let that build happen before I cut off the music. You've got Karina here from the Game Dev Cafe. Oh, there I am. Hello. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get
Hey,
today's guest in. There's Alex. Hi, Alex. How's it going?
hello, going well, you?
Wonderfully. So we, for the benefit of anyone who's watching on Twitch, are live from the Game Dev Cafe. My name is Karina. Today's guest is Zandra. I'm extremely excited to be talking with this particular game dev and artist. I've had an opportunity, unlike maybe people who are watching, to actually hear Alex speak live. Certainly, we met last year at GDC, which was kind of cool, but I've been following her progress since then, and I'm just really excited to talk to you about all the art and sort of game ideas that are coming out of this end of the universe. Now, Alex, I should mention you are from Montreal. I think I may have
Yep.
accidentally told someone that you were from Toronto earlier, so apologies. I know Montreal has like a very serious point of pride. It's got an amazing game dev community. We actually at the Game Dev Cafe have been involved in CGX Montreal very recently. MIGS is
Oh, nice.
coming up. Yeah, I know you're going to be speaking at MIGS, so
Yes.
we're sort of loosely partnered there. So while I sort of adjust, I'm actually just adjusting our stream and making sure that we both look, beautiful and in camera and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of did a sloppy job of introducing what it is that you do. But why don't, for the benefit of our audience, why don't you tell us, what is it that you do sort of as a job or as a career, I guess?
It's someone in the Giant Bomb community described me as a game dev everything person, and I've kind of been using that ever since. But essentially, I've been like making games for something like 20 years, and most
Wow.
of what I did was like game design
Oh, okay.
primarily, but also writing, also art, also a bunch of little things. I'm the kind of person who likes doing a lot of different stuff, and but like as to what do I do right now is right now
Yes.
I'm an author because through a weird series of events I self-published a book and turned out, oh, this is something I really like to do, so I'm just going to do that for a bit now.
And it's adorable book.
And
So you have it. I know you have it. Hold it
oh
up.
yeah,
Yes.
okay,
And
okay, yes,
so
yes.
if you don't already know this about me from watching our broadcast, I really like anime. I'm a big fan of a lot of Japanese culture, and sort of that sort of wing of the internet is something that I love very dearly. But you might need to explain to me what a squid maid is.
Okay. So basically, is I was playing Splatoon 2,
Yep.
and Splatoon 2 lets you make these little like postcards, like black and white, that you can just draw, kind of like Miiverse used to do on the Wii U.
Oh, okay, cool.
But since it's a Switch game, it doesn't have Miiverse, but it kind of like made this its own little version of that. And a lot of my friends, especially over on the maid side of Twitter, were like talking about when are we going to get like cool maid costumes for our squidlings and so on. And basically, like I saw some postcards of like people started drawing like little like inklings in maid outfits, going like "Squid Maids when." So I decided to like just make one. And at that point, I had been doing fake light novel covers as art commissions,
Hmm.
and light novels being like mostly a Japanese thing, but they're getting a little bit more popular here. It's kind of like in between comic book and a novel. It's an
Yes.
illustrated light novel, like novella length, light reading, like usually like it's very silly, very lighthearted, and a lot of them have like very long and convoluted titles. So that's pretty much what I've been doing, like as commissions. Like, hey, I will draw anime version of you in this weird scenario, and so I'd made one for Splatoon for Squid Mate, like for Squid Mate outfits for like, and this is kind of what it looked like.
So cute.
And basically, so it was like, oh yeah, I'll just do a fake light novel cover in Splatoon 2 because that's a thing I do, and people started to like know me a little bit because of that. And Nintendo took it down
Oh.
because they said, no, that is like it says, warning, content you posted in game has been deleted, violation, advertising and or promotional content.
Ooh.
Like, no, you can't advertise your book on Splatoon. And I said, well, it's not a book. It's a joke. It's a fine. I'll prove you right. I'll write the book.
I guess I'll make it a book.
Yeah, so like I wrote like 20,000 words out of spite in about a week, and then I like illustrated it.
Secure for
And
writer's block, spite.
yeah, pretty much. So now I have like I just made an illustrated light novel with like about like squid maids and
So
stuff
cool.
like that. and since it's me, it ended up being like a thing about like sort of like a coming of age slash gender feels kind of book, and it was like the top book on itch when it came out,
Oh, that's so
and
cool.
it's still the top rated book. And I was like, oh, like I've been trying to make comics for years and it's so hard, but I can draw 10 things and
With
write
this,
20,000 words. Yeah,
hmm.
that's something I can do. That's like at the level of energy I can expend. So that's what I do now. I just made this book. It's still like I recently sold out of the first printing, so I'm gonna
Oh,
like print some
really?
more. Yeah, and it's like my second one is well on its way.
Oh,
Uh,
that's really exciting. That's really
yeah,
exciting. I love
it's
how it's a new, well, not a new medium, but a sort of a new to most people medium, um,
yeah,
that you're able to maybe kind of become a bit of a figurehead in, at
a
least for the
little bit
Squid Maids
maybe.
community.
Yeah, like it's especially like I'm kind of like doing my best to like carve out little like gender feels niche for that sort of stuff because it's something I really like writing.
Hmm.
But it's also like, oh, there's like also like publishers for light novels of all types of genres. There's not like that many, but I saw some at TCAF this year, and that was
Awesome.
fun.
And
So
TCAF, for
yeah,
those who don't know, the Toronto Comic and Arts Festival is like a great venue, not only to sell stuff and sort of be discovered, but to find a lot of this kind of unique. I was gonna say original literature. I know it's based on other things, but original in the sense of again, it's sort of a new format. Obviously, coming right out
yeah.
of the minds of some really creative people. Now, you mentioned that you have another one coming. Is there sort of a date ish that you
Oh,
have?
well, I mean, it's we're kind of in November, so in the spirit of NaNoWriMo, I need to finish it before the month is over. But I
Ah,
really like, ideally, I would like it to be ready and done and printed before MIGS,
nice.
because at that point it also starts with a bunch of stuff, and it means that hey, I can, if people want it for Christmas, I can like start mailing out and
That's
stuff like that. So
exactly was going to be my next question. Can you tell that I work in marketing? Now,
yes, yes.
I guess it might be an appropriate time to talk a little bit about your talk at MIGS, which I
Hmm.
think ties into this novella a little bit,
Yeah.
which is I'm going to sort of quote you, how to write gender inclusive games. And
Yep.
you're going to speak from both an English language perspective and also a French language perspective, which is a little tricky when it comes to gender
It's
identification.
yeah, it's really tricky. This is going to be an adaptation of part of a workshop. Because me and a friend did a co-hosted a workshop on that topic for Pixels
Oh,
earlier
nice.
this year, and so this is basically like a little extrapolation and distillation of that for like more of a like mixed talk format, and it's basically yeah, like because I saw firsthand when I was working like for a big studio how easy it is to for like especially masculine pronouns to become entrenched and become the default that
The
is very,
default,
very
yeah.
hard to deviate from. So if you get started early on in the documentation and write inclusively, then it kind of like helps make sure that the end result will be more inclusive than if everyone immediately writes assuming that every character and also every player will be male. So it's
Yes.
it's like it's a bit of there's a bit of a trick to it in some areas, but I basically share everything I've learned from that, like good writing practices, and also like in languages without gender neutral pronouns, how you can get around that in clever ways.
Interesting. And I actually love, now that you've explained it in a little more detail, I love how this talk, much like your Damage Camp talk, talks about being proactive in your
Hmm.
game design and development to accommodate for certain communities. Now, here we're talking about sort of gender inclusiveness and use of pronouns. Your Damage Camp talk was about speedrunners and the speedrunning
Yes.
community and how magically sometimes by designing a game for a speedrunner you also design it to be more inclusive than it may have been in the first place.
Mm,
I loved that talk. I mean, that
mm.
I always want to talk to you, but after I heard you talk on that's sort of my that's my hallmark, I think, of
Mm,
intelligence when I see people designing games. It's not
mm.
about like having an amazing idea, like those come out all the time, and sometimes they're just like a meteor strike. But this sort of like planning and strategic crafting from the ground up to accommodate for for something that has not really been accommodated for in the industry before. I really love that. And I guess this isn't really a question that was on our list, but I guess now that we've discovered this link, is this something that you're kind of all about? Like, is this a thread in your games, in your writing, in your public speaking? Are you trying to make people be more conscious when they design?
Pretty much. I mean, like someone at some point, like someone at Unity, like at least more than a year ago, gave me like an interview, just like, okay, how do you use Unity in your stuff? And like at some point asked, so why are you making games? And it kind of threw me for a little bit to realize, oh, well, I want to change the world. Like that's pretty much my goal. I know, like, I want to change it a little bit, like staying reasonable, but like we are creators of culture.
Yes.
And we influence the great mass of what is out there. So if I make things that are positive, that leave people in a better place than when they found it, that show them a like picture of, like, a more representative, more inclusive picture of what the world is, I feel like I am like moving the needle a tiny bit in the direction I want, because I'm like adding little drops of water to like this great big thing and changing the color a little bit. So and I feel that if we can all do that, then we can have like an effect. And if at least like one person comes out like of like having experienced or interacted with something I made and has a positive experience, and it motivates them to do something, well, hey, these are little changes that ripple out. And I'm kind of tired of being bummed out by media. So I want to make cool things. Kind of like also like in my games it varies a little bit, but in my light novels it's like one of the hard and fast rules, like, you know, no bummers, but also like I want to make sure that like these are stories that like just uplift.
Yes.
So I none of my books will ever like hopefully never make someone sadder than they were at the start. Like I've heard that like Squid Maids made people cry, but like in a good way. So.
But in a different way, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I really love that. And it's something that's kind of missing, or not missing, but it is rare. Like we don't hear that many people who set out to, as you say, sort of uplift and bring joy. And funny enough, we feature quite a few of them on our channel here, but I think that's the games community. It's a reaction to maybe what's come before.
There's a lot out there. It's just it doesn't reach as much and doesn't have as much like signal boosting and just like volume as the big media outlets and the big productions. So it's just like I want to do my part and inspire, and also be inspired by everyone else who's doing their part, and just like contribute to it as much.
I love that. Anything that encourages people to use their agency, as you say, whatever small way. Yes, use it and use it wisely. That's really fascinating. Is this something that you've always believed in? Like when you were a little kid, was this something that you feel is like a personality trait that you've carried? Did you always want to make that small but significant change in the world?
Kinda. It's more of a recent thing that like it coalesced into it. I think like this is more of a post coming out thing. But like I was always like very, because I even in my darkest days before, I kind of always like assumed that things will get better. So, and that's what like kept me going in really bad times. And I'm not sure why I had this conviction or something, but it's something that's always been with me. But and now I'm kind of like turning it into something like practical and that I can like put into the world in some way. Especially now, like it turns out like, oh, when you like yourself, you're way more motivated about your own personal success. And in this case, personal success means like I'm spreading a good message. I'm like sending my stuff out into the world. So I'm doubly more motivated to do that now.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that you've gotten a lot of good feedback from it as well. It's nice when you're doing something for yourself, first and foremost, perhaps, but it also has sort of that effect on others and on the community. You know, that is sort of how you came to my attention, as being this sort of positive and supportive voice for your own work, but for others. I guess I am curious if you always wanted to do this type of work as a kid? Like, was art or
Hmm.
creation always sort of your angle, or did you ever think that you would be in some other field of work?
It's like, to be honest, I didn't know what I was doing until about I was 30 years old.
I think that's a lot of
Like
us.
yeah, I always I was ostracized a lot and bullied a lot in school, so I would tend to like hang out by myself and draw.
Hmm.
So I always like tended to create stuff, and like even no matter when, like when I look back, even at times where I just like bury myself in games and in media, and like I would often like feel really bad if I didn't create something after a
Hmm.
certain amount of time. So it's always something I figured I would do. I just never really imagined I would do this professionally. And like it's only like it's been less than a year uh, that I've actually been doing this kind of like
Wow.
I kind of been well, if we look at it, like it's been a little bit over a year that I've gone freelance,
Hmm.
but only in like only by after launching the book
Hmm.
did through my Patreon and also like book sales and such did this actually start making sense for me financially to just do this by myself, to just freelance. So
Awesome.
it's very recent and it's incredibly motivating that just through like my Patreon, my Twitch streaming, and the book sales and my arts, like, oh, this is actually working. I can actually pay the bills almost. So now it's just a moment of okay, well, if I can keep uh, making books at a good clip
Hmm.
and keep making art, then I think that can work out. So it's just yeah, I always figured out I'd be doing something. I just never really imagined that would be that. And
Interesting.
I do still want to make games. I especially like the kind of a smaller games. I want to collaborate with folks too, but
Hmm.
this is more of a like a mid to long term thing. Right
Hmm.
now, I just want to like okay, books are things I can do. I can concentrate on that, build up a little bit of body of work, and then slowly like take a deep breath
Contemplate.
and
Yes.
yeah.
That's interesting. I think gaining that momentum as an artist is something that a lot of people don't. A lot of people want to pursue, but a lot of people don't necessarily see as viable as a career.
Mm.
Is Was there a point, and maybe it was your book as you mentioned, but was there a point where you felt like you'd kind of made it from a legitimacy standpoint as like an artist or creator, or does that just come with time and your body of work, I guess?
Yeah, I guess I'm not still not sure I've quite made it yet, but there was a turning point last year when at conventions people started like calling out to me by name.
Oh, cool.
And like when I was like in panels and there were like some people who had come to the panel specifically to see me and talk to me afterwards. And like I was like, oh okay, no, I think I'm actually like having a tiny bit of an influence
Whoa.
now. I'm actually making a difference. That's really heartening.
That's lovely. And honestly, you've done a great job with your personal branding. And people, I would encourage you to check out Alex's Twitter. Obviously, the Patreon page is beautifully done as well. But that's incredibly important. And a lot of people have sort of the ideas, but they aren't able to sort of bring it to the surface as you have. And I think that's important. As a lesson for any creator, but much more important, I think, for artists, and sort of diverse artists like yourself. Um, we
Yeah,
you
it's
you talked about I guess recently coming into this. Is there, do you think, a point in your life where you would want to switch gears again, or do you feel that now, as you said, everything's kind of coalesced and this is like what you're meant to be doing?
I don't know because like it's also like coming out, especially like transitioning publicly, has
Yeah.
really messed with my perception of time, and already my perception of time isn't super good. Like as a fun aside, like I have spatiotemporal synesthesia, which means that
Oh,
I
okay.
see time, so
Cool.
that like days of the year are I see them in a physical space. But and that's just it's neat. Like I've talked to other people who have synesthesia, like my mom, like words and letters always have color, specific color for her. So
Oh.
like it's these little things. But as for someone who sees time, I'm extremely bad at like estimating it or like perceiving it, which means that like I came out just a little bit under 2.5 years ago, a little bit over 2 years ago, and
Okay.
I have like it's been staggering to me to see just how much I've changed in like those like almost 2.5 years, and like So like if someone asked me like where do you see yourself in 5 years, it's like that's more than twice the time I've been effectively alive. I have no clue. I don't know where I'm going to be next year at this time. But this thing is like I do have this thing where like I've become better at when I see an opportunity or something I want to do, saying, okay, I am doing this and then doing it. So like it's been really heartening to actually go through with the books. And like now I have I have a book out, one currently working on, and like two more like almost completely fleshed out, ready to go. As soon as that's done, is like that's really motivating to me. And I don't know if that's going to be something I keep doing all the time, but I do want to make games at some point. I want to keep making art, and it's just, I don't know. I do feel that this though is going to be like a big part of whatever it is I end up doing. And I still plan to be someone who does a lot of things, but and I haven't like left games entirely. But that is like I think okay, it's a slice of the pie chart.
Yes.
I can't commit to the rest, but it's absolutely something I want to do. And also, like, I've traveled a heck of a lot this year. I think like Megs is going to be my 17th convention.
Wow.
So yeah, no, I did a lot.
That's incredible.
So I am incredibly tired. I've like this year has exhausted me. Yeah, so like I plan to do a little bit less of that next year, but I absolutely want to keep like speaking at events and like being on panels and that sort of thing. I absolutely adore public speaking.
Nice.
So that is absolutely something I want to do too. And streaming has just been the most wonderful thing. And I want to keep doing that too. And like I stream a lot of games and game design analysis and also speed runs. And I always like just archive everything on YouTube because I want to, I'm a bit like a digital hoarder, but it's really hard for me to get rid of stuff. And even though moving is a good motivation.
Yes,
to
forces you.
But
the problem with digital is you can keep it all if you really want to. Yeah, I hear you. Now, your YouTube and your streams, all of that's linked through your Patreon as well. Is that still the best place for people to find all your stuff in a central hub?
Pretty much. Oh yeah, like at the, it's not the most visible, but like on my Patreon page, like in the little box that says how many patrons I have, like there's all the icons that point folks to all of my stuff, like my Twitch, my YouTube, my Twitter and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much the place to go. And I spread myself thin, but like usually like it's also weird to like think of like, oh yeah, the Zandra brand. That's kind of heavy. Yeah, like a friend, like I try to be like genuine on Twitter and such, but I try also to like be positive. But I recognize that there's a limit. I don't feel like it's genuine to be like try to be positive all the time, because sometimes you just have bad days.
Yeah, sometimes it's not authentic.
Yeah, like it's like sometimes stuff sucks and it's okay to accept it and just like, well, weather the storm. And eventually, like it's like I don't. My mom is very spiritual, and she's also like a life coach.
Oh, cool.
And her point of view is always that like, okay, there's like we disagree big on some of the things, and one thing is like I feel that like it is like it's like things don't specifically happen for a reason. Sometimes just bad stuff happens just because it happens. But I think that humans are like we give meaning to things. That's a thing we do. And I think we can get better at finding a positive meaning or motivation in things. Like I was really sad that my Squid Made post in Splatoon got like deleted, because I was really proud of that little pick. I spent a lot of time and effort on it, and I like made an effort to know I'm going to turn this into something productive, and I'm going to make a book out of it. And I think like it's not always possible, but I think it's important.
That's a good example.
And it's like it's been weird that like, okay, so this has kind of become my brand now. And like I was meeting up with a friend for like a movie night with some like folks here in Montreal. And at the end when we partied, it says like oh, is it like nice to hang out with you? He said like, yeah, it was nice to like hang out with you in person instead of interacting with your brand on Twitter. And I said like, oh, like no, my brand is me. And then like 5 minutes later in the metro going like, oh my God.
But but is it really me? It's
Yeah,
it's
no,
a bit
that's
surreal. Yeah. I can say from having seen you speak and watch some of your Twitch streams, and obviously our lovely little chat now, you're pretty consistent, and you're a really nice, authentic person. There's a lot of speakers who, as you say, the tendency now is to kind of go all in with either positive or negative, I feel, and there's not like a lot of middle ground until you find those authentic people. And I've really appreciated the fact that you in some of your streams, but especially in your damage camp chat, you were talking about issues that people don't think about all the time, and if they do, sometimes they're presented in a negative light. In the case of damage camp, accessibility and how to provide for that in your game, and I think putting a positive spin on things is productive and logical, and it's nice to sort of hear someone who's worked that philosophy into their work. That's really good to see.
There's like lots of people who are like promoting accessibility like better than me, like with the like able gamers and such. But I like to do the most I can, because like it's surprising how much you can do just by doing a little. And like it's like the like don't let perfect be the enemy of the good, I think, is a thing. But basically, like sometimes good enough makes a big difference, and it's worth it.
Good enough is still good.
Yeah. Good enough is what, like, between good enough and nothing. Yes. I will take good enough.
That, I think we need to put that quote on a plaque and like send it out to every game studio I've ever met with. Oh, that's awesome. I know that we've been talking a lot about art and your books. I am curious if you have any video games, and this could be from your past or from your present, but are there any games that had an especially significant impact on you besides Splatoon, obviously?
There's a bunch. I've been like doing a few like top 10 lists every year, just even though I abhor the concept of a top 10 list for a year. I do like the exercise of like, here are games that I feel people should know about, and it's there's stuff like I managed to like I got into Undertale before knowing anything about it.
Oh, that's nice.
Because like I know the fandom has been incredibly enthusiastic about it, so I kind of just avoided it and just got into the game, and it turned out that like, oh yeah, like the pacifist run of Undertale like speaks to my deepest held beliefs and principles, and that was like one of the most like affecting experiences I've had with games. And there's also stuff like Lady Killer in a Bind really like struck a nerve with me for on many things, but also it was like the of all things, the fact that I tend to be like extremely self-critical. And it was interesting. It was like really nice to have like just part of that game address it in a very like striking manner, and kind of like make me like think a lot about that.
Give pause, yeah.
yeah. And there's lots of stuff, but also like there's just it's interesting just how many interesting games there are, and how much like people will do even something as like simple as like, actually, let me look it up. But there's this there's one game I did last time I played it on. I forget the name, and it's like really going to mess me up because like it's an adorable little game. Like hopefully like, but it's basically a game on itch where you are like an inspector who gets to like approve or reject like cute pets.
Oh, I like it.
It is just like really it's just
so you get to reject some pets.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's you're like you have quotas of rejections to reach, but then you're just like, oh, here are all these adorable animals, and there's a storyline.
I love that quandary that it puts you in. Like, I love cute things, but I can't love them all.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of stuff there. Even stuff like I'm a big fan of Nuclear Throne.
Oh, nice.
Like,
I haven't played, but that's been mentioned a couple times. Yeah.
It's incredibly difficult and frantic, but it's one of those good games that just puts you into a Zen state, and that can just like make everything kind of go away. Like also recently there's stuff like Opus Magnum that is a game about like alchemy, but it's really just a game about here, like make these little automated programmed machines that will do this thing, and so long as it works, you're good. Like it's very, very open-ended, and the whole game is just about, oh, like my friend has made a machine to turn like lead into gold that is quicker than my machine. So how can I work it to make a quicker machine or a smaller machine?
Ah.
And it's just like it's so refreshing not to have like, this is the goal, do the goal, okay, good. Now just it's very easy to just make it work, but like you can decide what's important to you and how to like play with that. And I find that's really important.
That's an
And
interesting concept, yeah. The game kind of like different depending on how hard you want to try.
yeah, it's
But
neat.
yeah.
And it's also like there's stuff like I really like Oni, this very old game from 2001 that I like to speedrun because it's so weird, but it's so charming just because
Well,
it's
that's
like
you talked about that in your damage camp talk, right? That's the one that you were talking about, sort of being proud of having having beaten some records on. And it's funny because Oni is not a game that I would normally have thought of as a speedrun game.
No, but the great thing is it wasn't like it was designed in such a way that it's easy to exploit, and that makes it a speedrun game because otherwise it would like take 10 hours and just that's too long. But it's taught me a lot about how to approach design in multiple ways. And I'm sure I'm like forgetting a ton of games, but like it's there's so much, and it's just like it's amazing, just like the breadth of experience that there can be in games, whether you want to escape or just like calm down or just have like a genuinely like fascinating, engaging experience. I wanted to make games, and I've kind of been making games since I was like a little girl, and I'm not gonna stop. So I'm eager to see what I can do and where I can go with this sort of thing. And I don't know. At some point, I want to make a Metroidvania. I want to make I want to make another roguelike and like stuff like that. And yeah, these are like these. It's exciting to make something that can be fun for people.
Absolutely.
And it's just I'm excited to create.
Well, and I like the fact that whatever sort of creative capacity you're working in, you have this sort of philosophy of taking challenges and turning it into a positive. It should help you to continue to create, regardless of the success, although you are enjoying some right now, and I hope you continue to.
Me too.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to just like comfortably live from this. So fingers crossed.
That's the dream. And it would allow us to sort of see more from you. I think that the irony is that once the community finds a creator that they like, we desperately want to support you because we want that content. We're kind of hungry for it. Almost to a fault where your work-life balance may suffer, but you'll get there when you're successful enough. That's a whole other set of problems to have.
My ideal situation is being able to live from it and also like have a little bit of more of a travel budget so I can like go to Toronto more often because like I like skipping to and from. I like my thing is like when I visit a new town, I like to go to the co-working spaces.
Nice.
Because like I love working in the company of others.
That's cool.
As a freelancer working by myself, I love working in the company of others.
I understand. I work from home too, so getting out. I mean, Gamma Space we talked about in Toronto is a great little venue. What's the Montreal one? There's one in Montreal as well.
Gameplay Space.
That's right, Gameplay Space.
There's also a couple of other smaller ones whose names I forget, and like I work in a co-working space with some other like local indies too, and it's just it's great. I need that social contact.
It's nice motivation. Are there any sort of maybe role models or heroes, might be a big word, but are there any people in the industry who've sort of either influenced your path or who you sort of look to for guidance?
There's a lot. Like there's like specifically like there's people like Tanya Pass who like has the created like I Need Diverse Games, who has like turned like just like streaming and public speaking into like becoming like an establishment now. Yeah, and like it's just like she's
amazing.
Like Tanya is very inspiring and also like a constant like like a way to remind myself like, okay, yes, like I can do better. I can like I can work harder at this. And there's like lots of other people. There's like I'm kind of like drawing a little bit of a blank. With there's also like there's Tanya X Short here in
Yep.
Montreal.
Yep.
Who's like working at Kid Fox. Like it's like also people like Samantha Kalman in Seattle, and basically like and also like Sophia Park in Toronto, and people who like have like lots of conviction, are very dedicated to doing something and put a lot of effort and actually like go through with the things and have like lots of integrity. And also it's just like sticking to your beliefs and like learning and being very open to like getting better. And just like I'm surrounded by lots of incredibly inspiring people. And also like there's like Erika Lae, or a hack like artist on Twitter, and like who recently like worked on stuff like Shrouded Isle, Children of Zodiacs. I'm a backer. I was a backer for Children of Zodiacs. I am in the game somewhere. There is an Alex Zandra. So find me and fight me. I'm in there.
That's the Easter egg for tonight, everybody.
But just, Erica, like as an artist, was like really like kind of showed me that, because Erica kind of like does a warm up almost every day.
Oh, okay.
And just like seeing her like improve over time and such, kind of like that was like a big breaking point, like a big aha moment when like, oh, people my whole life told me like I wasn't an artist. I was more of a designer. So I kind of like left art by the wayside. But like, yeah, seeing talented folks around me, like being able to just like work at something and get like noticeably better over time by putting in the work and the time, and kind of made me realize, oh, I can be an artist. I just have to like work hard and spend time and energy and study and basically make a conscious effort to get better. And my art really has progressed in the past couple of years, and it's been like super motivating to see. And it's being incredibly motivating just across the board to realize that, if there's something I want to do, I can get better at it. It's not about like, oh, you have like innate talent to do something. No, if you work hard, if you make an effort to get better, you will get better. And this, like, as someone who wants to do everything, it's really
exciting.
It's very inspiring.
Well, and it takes a lot of the magic out of it, but in a very good way. I think that having been in the games community for just a couple years myself, the one distinguishing factor is that people have a tendency to not judge each other when they're trying. So as long as you're trying, and when I say judge, people have their opinions, but very encouraging. Keep trying, keep going, keep improving, keep working at it. Don't worry about where you started. Don't worry about where you are. Worry about where you want to be. And I think that, a lot of the people that you mentioned, who may or may not in their own right see themselves as mentors, I think are putting that message out there. And as you say, they're very consistent. It's a lot of integrity that you can sort of see in their work. And I would sort of count you among all of those people. So so keep up the great work. I think, the games industry has taken a lot of knocks over the years. And I feel like, this is sort of the attitude that's actually winning out overall, and I'm really excited to see where the indie scene goes. I did want to ask you if those people who you mentioned, did you meet most of them just through like sort of following them on the internet, or were these people who you met at conferences? Like for someone who's maybe just starting out, yourself 5 years ago or something like that, where would you recommend that people sort of start to look for this connection in the community?
I think almost all of them I met through Twitter.
Nice.
Because I'm always on Twitter, and
Twitter can be good.
Yes, except I'm always on Twitter except when I'm sleeping, and when I'm sleeping because I say goodnight every night.
Oh, okay. So. That's a dedicated Twitter content creator. So
yes.
Oh, but that's great.
It's like I mostly met a lot of people online and by going to events, and it's something also kind of like I got to realize that the events, especially the first ones, can be incredibly stressful because it's like, oh, this is my chance. I cannot squander my time or this opportunity. Like, no, it's like it's expensive. It's hard to do, but if it's possible to like go to multiple events or go to events regularly, even if they're just local stuff, then just like becoming a part of the community just like makes a big difference, and it kind of like helps like meet people and just like do things. And it's just going to like multiple Pixels events here have like got me to meet a bunch of people that now like among my close friends, and it's been great.
That's
And
cool.
it's just like going to organized picnics and stuff like that. Just like small things, but it's enough to like meet people, and eventually like it's the game industry is pretty small. So you meet people who introduce you to people to other people, and like you, oh yeah, like a lot of
All of a
folks just
sudden.
end up knowing each other. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And everyone is very open, I think, to, having questions asked and giving advice and participating in these interviews that I do all the time. So I'm very grateful for people being so generous with their time and their insight. It's I know people like to talk about their ideas, but amidst trying to create things and do contracts and eat,
Yes,
do all those
important.
basic survival things. It is a community that does sort of open its arms and welcome people who are ready to learn and motivated. I think, you, as I said, are sort of an example of someone who certainly shines that beacon of light in the community. I would encourage anyone who's watching to check out Alex's Patreon. We'll put up all these links afterwards on GameDevCafe.com so everyone can find you easily. But just to sort of a final wrap, I guess two things. You have your MIGS talk coming up on December 13th, which is actually at 9:30 a.m.
Yeah, it's an early one.
It's an early one, and we were asked in our chat if that was going to be filmed and recorded. I'm not sure if we're planning to do that, but we'll find out, and we'll share with the community, and we'll do whatever we can. And I guess in terms of your new book coming out, or any other new projects coming out, I assume that following you on Twitter is the best place to stay up to date on any sort of new developments, or
Oh yeah, like that's I
the
will.
reprint
I'm
also of the first book, right?
Yes, and like all of my like my Patreon will have links to everything. My Twitter, like I will never shut up about everything I do. But yeah, I'm also like on Itch. Basically, I'm on Itch, on Twitch, and on YouTube. Like if you just look for Zandra, there's not a lot of us, and you can find me. And also like for my books, like, and also I've done like a lot of like general art, like prints, stickers, stuff
Oh,
like that.
nice.
That's like I have a shop. It's like shop.zandravandra.com. That's where everything is and where the reprints is going to be. And if folks kind of like want more into like digital versions, like all of my like Patreons at a certain level, it's like in the sidebar, get my latest book automatically.
Ooh, okay.
Since there's going to be a new one in a few weeks, and if people join it now, they get Squid Maze, and in a couple of weeks, or hopefully before Migs, whenever like in the near future when the other book comes out, then you also get the other book. So it's kind of like
Awesome.
one of the last chances to jump on, get Squid Maze, and then get the new one. And saying all of these, like also like one of my first public talks that I gave was about starting and finishing anything, and like committing yourself publicly to delivering is a big motivator.
Absolutely. Patreon's a scary site for me for that exact reason. But I think that, again, your page has done a great job of not only making sure people know what it is you're up to, but why they may indeed want to contribute to it. I think you're sending out a great message, and I'm really appreciative of your energy. Thank you so much, Alex, for doing this interview.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be here.
Awesome. And I will hopefully be seeing you at MIGS. Everyone else, please do try to make it out. It's a wonderful conference. Otherwise, we will check back with Alex and hopefully have some news about the new book very, very soon.
Yes.
Wonderful. For anyone who joined us part way, I will just take the time to say that this will be up on YouTube very shortly. As always, you can find it at GameDevCafe.com, or we will, I'm sure, have a link for you at some point on Twitter as well at the GameDev Cafe. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.